one. How big is it, Jeff?
It's like the biggest, same size as an egg white. It's very similar to that.
So, I was thinking about Kate, but she thought this was a good spot.
Okay. It's right there for the lock. And then, does it light up or something?
It's light up when it's locked. You're gonna tie it to the front door.
Okay.
So that if someone has a meeting here, when it's locked, it's going. So, yeah, we just have to look into that and light as soon as that's locked.
Yeah, I heard that.
They had
It's
a-
gonna be in the lobby.
Yeah,
It is gonna be.
That's, well, I just got a message.
Well, that's what
Are you
the-
Brian?
Yeah.
Oh, Nick. Me too. Nice to meet you. I'm glad I dressed up today. I usually don't.
one less. So, I grew up there, we just like them done.
In case you're wondering, Doug Diny is about to give a press conference in the lobby of City Hall, or so we're told. We believe it's going to be about the wheel tax, so. You're live, Michael. What do you got to say? Just kidding.
I did not ask to be a part of this.
But there's a podium set up in there, so I'm very
Oh, there it
confused.
is.
Yeah.
But the press release said the lobby, so.
Yeah, exactly.
And his assistant just left me a message.
Oh, so it is going to be in there?
Is that where WSAW is set up?
Oh, you're a WSAW.
No.
Oh, yeah, you're WSAU. Yeah, the other, can't keep those letters straight. No, the other guy's in there, so there is a podium.
All right, let's go.
And because, yeah, the news release did say,
Is it gonna be in here?
we're all wondering.
Exactly what we're wondering.
Well, I feel bad for him because he's already got everything set up. Or,
Right.
you know, the other, I
I
don't,
mean, there is that little podium there.
Exactly, so.
but I don't know if there's like conflict because there's voting.
All right.
That doesn't start until tomorrow.
Let's see, what else are you up to? You're gonna work on.
Well, see what I mean? There's a,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're just sort of, you know,
well, if we all stay in one place, you can't without us,
Exactly, if we
so.
all stay in one place.
you
you
can't-
outnumber him. 5-1. Also, did you leave without me? Well, I mean, I didn't know if you let him here and they're grumbling.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Oh, he's low. Oh, okay, I suppose you're not going back to the office. Well, yeah, that's
All right, so BC here, there's a little confusion about where the press conference actually is because there's a podium set up in here. The press release said it was in the lobby, so we're just gonna bank on the fact that the podium is here, meaning it's probably here, so stay tuned. Actually, I have people watching. Cool.
You actually have people watching?
Like 12 people.
Yeah.
It's going now. It was 0 for a long time, and then all of a sudden, like a whole bunch of people jumped.
What have I always told you? You are the Wausau. Gerard Butler style.
Very cool. Not the audio ain't good. I don't have an extra mic for that, so.
Right.
So anyway, folks, it's supposed to start at 2:30, so. But they can't really, all the media are in the city hall, so they can't start without us. Otherwise, it'd be a press conference to nobody.
Exactly.
Change. Wait, oh, no, now we're on.
Oh, gosh, really?
Michael from WSAU? WSAW, is that
Yes,
earlier?
not WSAW. Exactly.
What do you think this will be about the wheel tax, right?
Well, probably,
I mean, we got that press release
I
earlier
gotta,
today, so.
yeah, it's,
Yeah,
I mean, what issue? Just go ahead and pick an issue right now at City Hall.
because it did just say the budget, so we don't know
Yes.
exactly what.
How that's gonna play out?
Denny has said that he would veto any budget that included a wheel tax. I think most people are probably gonna find unpalatable, but I've watched.
Oh, of course.
I watched 5 hours of budget meetings and like the wheel tax came up exactly once. And it was
And then-
Becky McElhaney saying she got complaints about it, or I
Right.
assume people weren't calling this a great idea, so would be my guess.
No,
but-
no. So, and then the press release comes out on Friday, with the list of cuts proposed and
Right.
proposed additional fees, and right there, the list of additional fees is a $25 wheel tax.
Yeah, it's on there. So that was the sheet
That's,
that they
that's
were.
what I was going off
Yeah.
of on Saturday.
Yeah, that was the sheet that they were working with, that the city council, or I should say the finance working with,
Right,
and so
and there he is.
there's Mayor.
Gentlemen, how we doing?
Hey, good. Give your mic set up.
So you are having it in here then?
I wanted to do it in front of the seal over here. Looks like we're setting up for voting, so does
Right.
this give us a good enough background?
Sure.
Is that in your way there, sir?
Meg, are you gonna put your phone up on the podium too?
Really what I'm gonna
Okay.
do is read essentially latest guidance, or at least my memo. I think all of you got a copy of this, and then I can answer some questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, referring to this document.
I should let you know I'm already live, by the way.
Okay, that's fine.
Just so you're aware, it wouldn't be fair if you weren't aware of it, so.
Live?
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
it's just easier to get it set up and have it running, you know what
Yep,
I mean?
okay, so this, I'm to this document, this has been published previously, and then, I guess I'll make this handy now. This would be the, I don't know if you all got a copy of this, or not.
Wait,
Yes.
Do you
think I
know
have
why,
that
oh
right
yeah, I
now.
have that. Do you
Yeah.
know, yeah,
Got
do you
this.
know why the city gives two sets of tax rates? Because I've always found that really confusing. There's like the regular tax rate and the equalized value tax rate. I'm told the equalized one is the one that matters, but I find that kind of confusing. You're being diplomatic, okay, I get it.
Yes, that is- I'm going to agree with you. The equalized value tax rate, I think, looks at the entire city as the equalized value. The tax rate that you see on your bill, I think, is the one, right?
Yeah, but which
So
one is it?
That is a
that the-
$100 question. I'm gonna tell you.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
Someone else told me it was the equalized one was the one that counts, but
Yeah, does it say guy right here?
maybe. Well, this one has,
Just has the rates.
well, see, that's the one that's the other, the not the equalized value one, because it was supposedly going from like 1086 to 8 something.
Yeah,
I
so
have
this
it in my story, but I
1086
can't
is
recall.
from- This is a little dated.
Right, that's last year's, and then the 2024 rate was supposed to be quite a bit lower. But when she talked about the equalized rate, it was like $9. I mean, I generally wonder, because like every other municipality I've ever seen just says, here's what the rate was and here's what it was. Really simple and easy to understand, which I think is the thing that people care about, if that makes sense.
Well, I will tell you, that was a question I had for the finance director. She's out today.
Okay.
On a personal matter. So,
Okay.
difference between them is actually fairly significant.
Well, yeah, especially the non-equalized one, it's quite a bit. It's like 1086 to 8 something. I just don't remember exactly off the top of my head the number. I have it in my story, but and the other one, the equalized one is like $9 something. It's like 905, 855 or something like that, or 850. Just pulling the numbers off of my head. Like I said, I don't have the story in front of me, but
Well, so that I'm referring to here were researched by someone else, and.
yeah, I understand.
If anyone else needs a.
Yes. I do if you're ready to go.
If you're just joining us, the mayor is about to give a press conference of the budget, and I'm assuming the wheel tax.
You ready?
1 second.
first draft of our 25 budget working document went to print with estimates in place for some numbers, the largest and most significant insurance. We were originally facing a potential 15 to 20% increase in health insurance. And with those estimates in place, the levy increase as assumed and reported was $1.765 million, approximately up 4.83 from 2024. Now with the insurance issue nearly resolved, at a price point much lower than anticipated, the numbers have, and at the first budget workshop, the finance committees were given the following. Levy increase of 1.21 million, that's up 3.31% from 2024. Unfortunately, that one is still at least $200,000 over to qualify spending restraint criteria and receive the additional state aid that comes with it. Wednesday night's workshop whittled away a little bit, but left some things on the table. So therefore, I'm setting a new target for the budget process, and that target is a levy increase not to exceed $912,000, $737, 2.5% increase from 2024. So that's an increase from 2024. Key here, though, is we're going to, and if you look at the last 10 years, we've increased 3.3 to 5.8% over the last 10 years, consistently maximizing levy and expenditure constraints. Now, instead of having to find $750,000 for the budget cut, council at this point only needs $300,000. And if you will recall, I asked department heads to prepare a list, provided that memo as well. If you need it, I can get it to you. A list of possible cuts equal to 2.5% of their budget. Attached to this memo was a spreadsheet of suggestions. Now it is the job of council to set priorities and bring the budget in on target. As I have said, since becoming mayor, the budget process cannot be additive only as it has been in the past. Costing supplementals, add, tax increase. There needs to be a way to identify and call low priority and unneeded items. While you have a good list of suggestions, it is not perfect. It should be clear from reading the list that some department heads took the task earnestly and made some very good suggestions, while others' suggestions seem disingenuous and designed to merely draw the ire of the public. Why we're here today. To avoid penalizing departments that did good work, I'm suggesting the finance committee start toward the $300,000 budget consideration, a 2%, or I hope they consider a 2% across cut to any department that the committee feels fell short on usable suggestions for the process. For all the talks about cuts, it should be remembered that we are not shrinking the size of the budget. The levy, we're actually growing at 2.5%, it's our goal. Rather slowing the growth, and it is necessary after years of unchecked additive budgets. So given the numbers, this is a relatively easy task. You've got a $160 million budget, counting all entities, 30 plus on just the general fund. To come up with $300,000 should be fairly easy. So I've given every tool to achieve that goal, and I cannot see myself signing a budget that does not eliminate some low priorities and slow the rate of growth for the city. So as I was referencing growth, a fact sheet that I will have to credit the pilot, 2010, the city portion of the pie, the total pie was 33.8%. Over the course of 10 years, the city portion is now 47%. So that happens when you incrementally exceed what the school district is doing. So we're really crowding the school district on their funding. So, yes. So we're effectively crowding the school districts. The school district typically, so back in 2010, was 37% compared to 33% for the city. Today, they're 33% compared to 42% for the city. You look at any community our size, school district is always the largest taxing entity and the largest portion of the levy, and as it should be. That's where we want our money to go, to educate our children and minimize what we're sending to the spending city. So that's my goal. So it's like compounding interest. Mike runs a business show on Saturdays. Interest is a real thing. If we can undercut the school district by a half a point over the course of 10 years, we will now be switching places with them where we will be under. So we're slowing the rate of growth. It's like compounding interest, and we need to set that course now in order to get there. And clearly, we can't do it all in one swoop here this year. As some would like to see slash and burn, we need to take a measured approach. And I think we presented that to the council. Council just needs to make some tough decisions and do some soul searching and get this job done. So I'll take some questions.
Yeah, well, you mentioned some of the proposals from departments were unpalatable. I'm not sure if that's the exact word you used, but can you say which ones you thought didn't pass the sniff test, so to speak?
Well, I would prefer to leave that to the committee, and maybe you, if you read them, if you got a copy.
Yeah, I've read all of them, so I guess I
um,
was wondering which ones didn't.
I'll leave that for you to decide. I mean, I don't want to.
Is the wheel
I
tax?
will say that I think that the workshop would have had each director come up and give a pitch of 3 or 4 items that they presented, and then they could have been discussed in the openness of what they were. So right now what's happening is they didn't take several of them up. We're hearing out in the social media sphere, the neighborhood groups, oh, the mayor wants a wheel tax. That isn't how this came about. The mayor wants to close a pool. The mayor wants to close. That's not the way this came about. It was a process by which they were able to bring meaningful cuts to the budget or revenue enhancement. So I asked for cuts and revenue enhancement. Both of those were presented. The list isn't perfect. You know, remember, this is the time we've done this. In years past, it's always been cost to continue, add. I'm asking them to cut, and it's a hard thing to do. It really is.
So are you, just so I understand your proposal, are you suggesting to throw out those suggestions and just make a 2% across the
No.
board?
No.
I'm confused at what the
No.
proposal was exactly.
My suggestion was if the committee felt that there was a disingenuous effort to make the exercise to cut and add revenue, then maybe that element gets looked at for a cut. Because if they are not offering something that can be cut, then we would impose a potential cut. We're not looking at a lot here. We're looking to bring this to 2.5% increase. So we're still making an increase, small cut.
Yeah, I think that a lot of our confusion comes in because we get this on a Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and the list is right there. It says a $25 wheel tax. It says closing a pool, and then all of a sudden we get a release on Monday that suggests that that's not the case.
You saw what I asked. I asked for the cost to continue, adds, subtractions. Those are the ones that came. It would be disingenuous of me to be the sole arbiter of throwing them in or throwing them out. They were presented to the workshop, the finance workshop. They did their cut on it. They had every director to come up and speak to each item. There were some things, there's some backstory to each one as to why they were potentially here. And you saw, as with lead pickup, that got picked up as, potential savings. Neighborhoods didn't like that. We talked about maybe some compromise in there. That's what the process should look like. Is what are the ideas? Can we work with any of them? I'm not here to rule any in or out, but I'm here to tell you that it has to meet the 2% or less, or I will review the budget.
Sure.
I guess with the things like cutting the pool and then Sylvan Hill, stuff like that, you mentioned obviously
You're not the big mayor looking to just take these things away from the community. How important is it to make sure that we're getting these things, though, to make sure that we do meet these budgets?
Well, like I mentioned, we're down to 300,000 roughly to get to the 2.5%. That should not be insurmountable. As far as why the pool was offered and why the hill was offered, maybe you could talk to the director on that. There was a supporting document. It never saw the light of day because the council rejected it out of hand. So the process was as open and transparent as it could be. Those forward, some with maybe better logic than others. That wasn't for me to decide. It was for the council to decide. Ultimately, they have to meet the target, and the target is 2.5% or less.
So you mentioned 300,000. The finance committee found 191,000 in cuts. Is that 300 on top of that, or is it 300 as the target and they only made it to 191?
I think we are looking at roughly, we did get more than half of it, at least the workshop.
Yeah, it was
last week.
191,000.
So they might even be, they might be within a couple thousand. So part of that effort though was some of the grant funded positions, whether they stay on the levy or they don't. So whether they stay on the levy or whether they don't changes the expenditure, but doesn't the fact that
Right.
we still have to pay for them. They'll be there next year. So that's I would prefer to leave them on the levy and then not have, how we do, make the cuts to fit them in this year, as opposed to forcing our hand next year, where it's gonna be exponentially worse, because as you know, we have the ARPA, fire department positions, the safer fire positions. We have, I think, a total of 14 to 16 positions that will need funding at some point.
Okay. Is it your sense that anyone on the council or the finance committee is on board? Have you had discussions with anyone on the finance committee about this mandate that you're making?
It is my sense that they are resistant to change. They are resistant to making any cuts, even 0.5%. So their desire is to run up the levies to the max. Their desire is to run up the expenditure restraint to the max allowable. Because here's what it is. This is an unfortunate process. Is next year when we recalculate expenditure constraint, we base it on previous year's spending. So if we cut the budget by a few points this year, that's a few points less that they can tack on to next year. So the system forces people to want to run it up to either the levy limit or expenditure restraint.
What prompted the wheel tax press release today? I watched all 5 hours of the finance committee, and I have the scars to show it. Can you say, but they didn't take up the wheel tax. It got mentioned once in passing. Mostly it sounded like it wasn't very palatable to anyone on the committee. So I guess I was a little curious what prompted the press release this morning.
What prompted it is I was taking the inbound calls from media and getting some emails from neighborhood groups that alders were potentially ginning up the fact that this was out there somehow, that the mayor is putting a wheel tax. I think that's a disingenuous effort to submarine process is pretty transparent and open.
Can I disagree with that? None of the meetings had any packet material whatsoever.
Well, you did bring that up to me, and I did make sure that it was put in there. So and then it was,
After the fact, but that may have been what some of the confusion around the community.
and I think you indicated to me that this is a long-standing issue with packets revolving around the budget process. They should be in there on the very first day, and I can't make an excuse. My recollection from days past is we would have the large proposed budget 5 days in advance, at least a week in advance. I may be wrong on that, but I recall, because I remember going to the mailroom and seeing 3 of them still sitting in there because alders don't come in and check their mail and pick them up. I always went through the budget
I mean, for example, that list that Mike referenced that came out, I asked about it, but that was something the committee was working off of, and anyone watching the meeting, they have
Ask
access
me
to
and
that.
I respond.
No, I appreciate
You
that,
ask
and I'm not,
me and I respond.
and that's not
So-
necessarily a criticism of you,
I-
but
No,
just,
no, no,
I'm
no,
just
it's the
pointing out
process.
that I'm criticizing or
Yeah.
lack thereof. You mentioned transparency, and I think actually I think the process could have been more transparent.
I would agree with you. The process should be open and transparent, start to finish. So, but I will say this, we did have the budget software, so we didn't get some of this stuff input till the very last minute. But that doesn't speak to the overall history you've experienced with the process.
Or like the list that the committee was working on, that didn't rely on budget software, could have just simply been in the packet, but anyway.
Sure.
Just
And-
to,
and then,
just as a journalist to fight for transparency.
So some of the assumptions, so this was kind of a working, some of the assumptions that were made, medical, for example, 20, I think we were in the 18 to 20% range at one time. It's extremely hard to put a budget together when you're facing that kind of an increase. We were negotiating with other healthcare providers. We were able to get that number down. So that happened. The original proposal came up. So these adjustments have been here, I guess, on the fly, because we didn't have them in real time, or we were getting them in real time. We didn't have them prior to the budget.
My only point is if a PowerPoint's being used in a meeting or a sheet of paper that the is referencing, I generally think that ought to be in the packet, but that's just my
I would
my perspective as a journalist.
Did you get a copy of the PowerPoint?
No. I don't necessarily need it at this point, I don't think, but,
Okay.
and it would have been helpful back then, so.
It wasn't my PowerPoint.
No, I understand.
I will find out where it is.
I understand.
I guess just kind of bottom line this for everybody, for our viewers and everything. Of that list, that got released on Friday, is there anything on that list that's actually in danger of being cut or added into the budget, or is this still a moving, living document as this gets to your desk later this,
Well, like I
next
mentioned,
month?
there were some good ideas on it. It is not a be-all, end-all exclusive list. Certainly, there could be other things that come to light here in the next day or two. We could impose some cuts. There are options. So, yeah, it's not a be-all, end-all. You've heard the reaction on some of, I think if you talk to some of the directors, I see Mr. Lehman is here today. Some of the logic behind certain things were contingent on, one, we had some large cuts. Two, we had some other plans were that be more palatable if we were able to get into the details of it. When you're looking at one line item on a spreadsheet, that doesn't tell the whole story. So I think it was unfortunate that during that workshop, these were kind of plucked and discarded and not discussed based on the fact that it was on a spreadsheet. There wasn't enough explanation associated with it. I was sitting right here. I'm not on the finance committee, so I'm not running that meeting, but I'm there to try to, if asked, put my 2 cents in.
Well, how do you see things going forward? Like, how's it out?
Well, I see that we are going to get to 5%. We're going to keep the levy increase under $1 million, be roughly $912,000.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Was the Federalist story true? Was your home rated by the DOJ?
Is the federal
Uh,
rate true?
Yeah, the one about your home and office being rated by the DOJ?
That is a true statement.
I've got a question for you then.
Yes.
Regarding that search warrant, handcuffed or patted down or searched, and was your grandchild separated from her, harmed in any way?
I prefer not to comment on that. Yes, that happened.
Okay.
We have not been harmed in that experience.
Okay. Are you currently without your phone?
I am currently without my phone.
Okay. Has the city operations been affected at all by anything they might have taken in the investigation?
No.
Okay.
No, we're continuing business as usual, and that's why I think it's important to focus on what's important. The budget, right now, that's number one. We need to focus on the budget. We have an election coming up. You see we have election material here. This will be the early voting location starting tomorrow. fortunate this round, and it's, yes.
So is there anything else you can comment on at this time related to any, the DOJ investigation? Do you know if it's in progress yet? Are they coming to an end? Anything like that?
I can't speak for the DOJ, but I will say the process, I guess, is somewhat surprising. I haven't experienced this kind of like enforcement in the past. I mean, we all know what happened. One would have expected a conversation with the mayor as to, you know, what happened, but that has yet to happen. So I can't speak for them. I don't know what they're.
So you have been interviewed by the DOJ? You have not?
No, I haven't spoken to. I'll respectfully say that I had great speaking opportunity when they were copying my material in the office and at my home, which I wasn't present for. It was a simultaneous hit. So there were 5 agents there for 4 years. So it was a significant Department of Justice effort.
Is it true that you've received death threats?
That is true. And I have referred, I think, 3 of them to PD because they were fairly graphic, and I believe there is a trail there that potentially they could be on.
Do you believe they originated locally, or do you think they were somewhere out in the nation somewhere?
I can't comment.
Okay.
I guess my big question for you is, we're a couple months into your term. It's been a little bit of a rocky road at
6.
times. It's been
Feels like a couple.
It does, yeah. But it feels like there's been a little bit of a rocky road here to start. I guess 6 months in, how are you feeling as the mayor moving with everything that's gone on and the future and all the who's, what's, when, where's, and whys of that?
Sure. I feel pretty good. You know, we have a great staff. I think we have some momentum on the budget corner. You know, change is hard. We have a person who was the chair of finance for years and years and years and years. And every year, I won't even put it on the person, I'll put it on the process. Every year we would do cost to continue, and they had a long list, and you probably remember the supplementals. Okay, can we add this, can we add this? How low can we go on the list? Okay, we're there, we're top down. That's additive. You can't continue to have additive a process that checks that upward rate. Again, this I think is, I'd like to see maybe put it into a little arrow chart. If you look at 2% today versus 33% 10 years ago, that's where we want to get back to. You can't get there in one budget session. It's going to have to be incrementally. And I think it would be unfair to each department to come in and say, look, we're going to cut you off at days you can't do your job. But we need to grow into this. We need to start becoming accustomed to the fact that there's not an endless money tree. Here's another thing to remember. The last 4 years, the mayor was blessed with having $15.6 million in ARPA. Think about that. $15 million in ARPA funding. Last year, we had an additional $1.2 million in shared revenue. We still overspent by several $1 million. So it's like we never, ever, ever can catch up. We don't eventually figure out a way to flatten out. That ARPA train is gone. Come and gone, we spent it. You could argue some pretty good projects, some not so good projects. Yes.
You're good.
Peanut gallery.
What's Eric Lehman gonna propose for cuts? Director's salary down.
Turn the cameras right over.
Well,
No? Okay.
we'll get to that when we get to that. Some of the items were not, they were on the list. So for example, travel, we cut a lot of travel already, so it's already in the budget. I don't know if some departments, some small departments were spending, ED was spending $220 a year. Cut that. Okay, that's not on the list of cuts because I already decided.
Baked in.
be listed on here because we already cut it, but we need more cuts. Sounds like a little bit of a repeat from what we already talked about, but I think it's good to clarify, so we're not throwing directors under